Okay, welcome back to another episode of It's the End of the World Unless, and it's been a hot minute since we've been here, but we back, baby. And I got my nigga, Skxnni.
Yes. How you doing?
We got a returning special guest, Domo.
What's up?
And we're going to talk about religion. Religion is ass cheeks.
Just out the gate.
I'm a little scarred.
That is my personal opinion. Okay, so I was raised in like a Christian household. Were y'all?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
Like pretty strict?
Yeah. I like with my mother, she was just like, she wasn't with the shit. Like, she wasn't with wearing certain shit. Like, you couldn't talk a certain way. You couldn't put certain, like, pictures on the wall. Like, it was a whole thing.
Did you have black Jesus or white Jesus in your house?
We didn't have neither Jesus, honestly. I'm pretty sure they was following white Jesus.
Okay.
Just because I never seen a black Jesus
okay.
in my whole, like, upbringing.
Okay.
So I'm guessing, like, white Jesus.
Okay. We had black Jesus in our house, but they were like, you can't play nothing with cursing on it on Sundays, you know, like, they, like, that type. They weren't super strict, but they were, like, Christian, you know. Your folks were strict, right?
No, my parents were lenient because my parents still like to be out in them streets. So,
oh, for real?
Yeah,
I thought you were a preacher's kid.
My goddad. So, like, when I was over there, it was a different story. But in my own household, like, my mom still listened to secular music. She still, like, drank. She still went outside and all that stuff. Like, she wasn't...
You said she went
outside? Like, she wasn't, like,
very
too stressed about, like,
she
the
went
rules
outside.
and stuff like that. But... like, we went to church every Sunday. We was in church from sun up to sundown, like that kind of thing. But we still did regular stuff. Like, I could go over my friend's house and all that kind of stuff. You know, like, some people, like, that's, like, in, like, Kojic, I think that's the word. Or, like, really strict religions. Like, they gotta be at home. They gotta be in their community and stuff like that. Like,
okay, I get you.
We were able to do regular stuff.
You could be a kid.
Yeah.
You weren't in a cult type
shit. It wasn't like if I said a cuss word, I had to wash my mouth out with soap or stuff like that. But we was in the church every Sunday, every Wednesday for Bible study.
You were traumatized from your goddad?
Just the church in general, because my lifestyle wasn't accepted by the church. So every time I'm in church, I'm like hearing, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this, if you do this, you're going to hell, all of that kind of stuff. I'm just like, I thought that God loved us all.
Right.
And you're telling me all of this stuff that I can't do, and if I do it, then he going to condemn me to hell. Like, what am I supposed to do about these things that I can't control? And then when I ask you questions, you like, it's just because. And I'm like trying to figure myself out to fall in line with what y'all saying. You can never give me an answer. How am I supposed to do that? So that's where most of my scarring came from.
I think Pose had a pretty good, this is coming from a straight perspective though. Pose had a really good episode about that. Did you watch the new season? You're so fucking annoying, Domo.
So, like, this is the thing. Like, I'm catching up because I told you I was waiting for it to come on Netflix.
Bitch.
So I'm, doing what I can with what I got.
Okay, then I won't. Well, I think I can go over it briefly, but they had a whole episode where Pray Tell went back to his hometown, and his folks were, like, super Christian church folk, and so it was him, like, facing all of that shit from his past and stuff. But I didn't really have, like, a conflicting lifestyle with the church. It was more like, shit wasn't making sense.
That too.
Like you would say one thing, and then the next sentence, it completely contradicts what you just said. And I'm like, y'all got to give me some answers, bruh. And all they kept telling me was, you got to have faith. You got to have faith. Like this blind faith. And I'm like,
that's
but I don't.
Most of that exists off of. Like, if there's no blind faith, there's no religion. Because if you have nothing to explain, like, the things that you say, and all I could tell you is, well, you just got to believe, then it's like, okay, how do I argue that? Like, how do you argue against that? Like,
and I'm more of a literal person. So, like, if you give me something, make it plain.
Right.
Like, don't give me all of these metaphors and analogies and stuff like that. I can work around that because, like, critical thinking. But also, like, if you're telling me God kicked these two people out because they ate an apple from a tree that he told them not to eat an apple from, and then I go to a school that's like a different denomination than what I'm learning in the church, and they tell me, oh, it wasn't really literally an apple, it was just that they didn't listen, and then I go somewhere else and they tell me a whole nother rendition of the story. I'm just like, all right, so which one is correct?
That's why I can't stand when niggas try to defend the Bible with like, oh, it's not all literal, you can't take it all literally. I'm like, who's coming up with the rules on what you should take literally and what's you know, like, it's not
the people in power. Whoever's using the Bible for whatever they're using it for, get
political
to
games,
decide.
Yeah.
I heard somebody say something like, whoever wins like in history is the person who gets to write history.
Right.
So
history
it's like,
is written by the victor.
Yeah, so it's like whoever, you know, when you go back to like the Crusades and all that type of shit, that's what happened. Like they was fighting like a bunch of different people, like on different sides. The Roman Empire, and Constantine was the emperor or something of that nature. But at first, Christianity was actually like, it was against the law to be a Christian. Like, you got persecuted because everybody was, I want to say, Jewish or something like that. So Christianity was actually the religion of slaves, or like the lower class, the poor people, slaves, and that was kind of like their hope, like, you know, one day somebody gonna come save us and da 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 da. And then at a certain point, Constantine realized like he was about to lose this war against Islam. So, and it was a bunch of, like I said, it was a bunch of other like factions that were trying to fight against him, like people that were in the Roman, you know, Empire and then left and started their own things. So they were all gonna come back and like, you know, basically take over. So Constantine's idea was, okay, we have to unite the entire empire. Like, we have to unite everybody. So what they did was the Crusades, which was basically, if you didn't accept it, you got killed. Like, they had to get rid of you. And that turned into them basically turning Christianity into what it is, how we know it, as far as like adding certain things, saying like, okay, this is exactly what it is, don't go away from this. Like,
missionaries in different places.
Different just everybody just saying their message of, okay, this is Jesus, this is God, like, understand it, believe it. If you don't, you're gonna die. And then that turns into where we're at now, where Christianity is the most popular religion in the world. So
just a big ass game of telephone.
Yeah.
But that's about the extent of like where Christianity came from that I know. Like, I ain't come through with the history lessons, Skxnni, let's go. But all I know is like Christianity really like spread like a motherfucker because it was constantly being forced onto people in like different situations, and I'm sure the Crusades is like one of the biggest ones. But like, nobody, like, I don't want to say nobody, but there was really no major event that happened that caused people to naturally convert to Christianity. It was like, this was your only choice to survive type shit.
Or like have faith in surviving. Like, if we go to fast forward a whole bunch of years, slavery, yeah, that's what they taught them, like, oh, there's a God, so some way, somehow we gonna get out of this.
It was the only thing they had to lean on.
Exactly. Like, that was the only positive thing that they had. But it's like, because of fear, you shied away from your practices that you practiced before you were brought to this place.
Hello.
So, like, it was like, still, I didn't have a choice but to go with this, because you're telling me, like, this is what you believe in.
And they erased everything that we knew prior to that.
Some things are still, like...
You gotta find them.
I'm trying to think of the word for it, but, like, nurtured, I guess. Like, to be
like people,
saved.
Yeah.
But it's hard to find.
There's a lot more people that are getting into, like, reconnecting with their ancestors and shit, and, like, different spiritual practices like that, which is what I think we, like, black people are used to from jump. That's what we did from jump. And then, you know, somewhere along the way, we started converting to Christianity more and more. But I think within the past, like, year or so, more people have started to become, like, more in touch with those spiritual practices and, like, actually working to learn them and practice them and stuff. But there's still, like, such a huge negative connotation on, like, witchcraft or
voodoo.
Like any of that shit. And it's like, if only we knew, bruh. There was so much shit that was taken away from us.
Because everybody thinks that those two things in particular, like, from my own experience of observing, like, they all think that it's bad.
Yeah.
But there's good voodoo. There's good witchcraft practices and things like that. But because we all hooked up on like Christianity, Catholicism, Methodism, all that stuff, it's like, all right, whatever this weird shit is on the side, like, don't do that because we don't know what you're saying. We don't. People speak in tongues all the time. I'll be like, what that mean? And you cannot tell me. So what is this? What is the
What's
difference?
the difference? Yeah, maybe I just thought about this. Maybe it's like with Christianity, you got to have this blind faith, right? But you don't really see things happen immediately or quickly. But with like with voodoo and witchcraft, you probably don't see them immediately all the time either. But they're probably like more like in your face, like that definitely happened because this happened.
It's all about like energy. It's not really, because it's like things in the universe, they happen. I think any type of religion where you put yourself up against some type of deity, or you say like, I want to be like this, or I want to do that, you're already starting from behind.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's really just like to put yourself on that pedestal is just how I see it. Like to put yourself on a pedestal to say, out of the whole entire universe, like as expansive as the universe is, how as unlimited as it is, somehow us as humans are so important that God himself or herself or whatever would like give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like give a fuck. And it's like to put yourself in that place to say like, I'm that important, where God is like shining light on me, and my life is like, it's horrible because God is testing me, and the devil is trying to do something to me. It's like, how do you become that like self-important? Yeah, like that's some narcissistic shit. To say like, out of the whole universe, like every animal, every like living organism, not just on Earth, but like in the galaxy that we don't know about, to think we're that superior. There's a God that just gives a fuck about us, and we're like this close to God, is just, it's very narcissistic.
I mean, that point right there should be like what makes everyone raise an eyebrow, but niggas still follow this shit blindly, and I'm like, what is it doing for you? What is it doing for you? I mean, and it blows me when niggas like thank you, Lord. Thank you, Jesus, for waking me up this morning. Like, no, your body did that. Right. You should thank your body first before you thank any kind of Jesus.
Or like I see
you
shit.
Got this promotion, my nigga. It's because you did that.
That's what I was gonna say. I see shit all the time where people will be like, yeah, I did such and such, and you know, I'm so proud of myself. And there'll be all these people in the replies like, yeah, you know, you couldn't do nothing without God, like, and thank God that you did that. I'm like, bro, if I've been busting my ass for years and you come talking to me talking about, oh, it was all God. No, nigga,
you
I
and
did
God
this.
got me fucked up.
I did
but
this
then
shit.
That's when, like, because I did that too, right? So the first thing that I ever heard from somebody when I said I did all this work, I put myself here, they were like, you got to take yourself out of it. And then they were like, you know, churchy people will just throw scripture at you. Just like, boom, boom, boom. Yeah. So the first thing that they told me was like, faith without works is dead. So like, if we do believe in this book and we have all this faith but we do nothing will happen. Mm-hmm. But if we do have faith and we put in the work, then God will make this happen.
My nigga.
Type thing. But like, that's their logic around it.
That just sounds like I'm doing all the work and then I'm going to thank God at the end of it. That's what it sounds like to me. Like, I do all the heavy lifting and then like, I thank God and then.
Okay. I'm not anti-God. I'm not anti, like, the word or idea of God. I just don't like putting, like, this, like, humanistic, is that a word?
Yeah, human.
This, like, humanistic figure as God. Like, that is like the craziest part out of all of the things that exist that we don't even know about, my G. You're saying that we are like could match up to that if we just try our hardest. Nigga, no. Like when I say God or when I hear someone thank God, I immediately replace that with the universe. Like just like the law of how things work type shit. You know, like it was just your fate and you worked to reach that.
Right. I don't know what I was asking somebody, but it was a good question. So they were
on the back.
Right. They were telling me about like how God is omnipotent, I mean like all powerful, omnipresent, which is like everywhere, and omniscient, which means knowing everything. So I wish I could remember the question, because it was like, if this is happening and you saying this is how God is reacting, to something that he didn't know, then how is he all knowing?
Mm-hmm.
And they just was sitting there like,
I mean, that's the running question. It's like, okay, if God is all present, all knowing, all this other shit, then how do we have free will? Like,
how would he have disappointment?
How
if he knows that
he knows where you're going to end up? And I think I asked my mother this question. I was like, if God knows everything, then he knows where we're going to end up in the end. So why even go through the trials and tribulations of life if you're going to do all this shit and God already knows, okay, he's going to heaven, he's going to... And she said something along the lines of, well, we have free will. And I'm like, okay, that could be true. But if we're all destined to reach certain points in our lives, and if our lives are based in fate and destiny, decided by God, then at the end, God still decides like our fate.
Right. So, no matter what free will we have, whatever decisions we make, our
He's like, I knew you were gonna make that decision.
Right. So now you still going to hell. So it's like, I don't really get how you can have free will. And then to say you have free will and then you measure up, okay, you can either go to heaven, which is all like blessings and peace and that, or you can go to hell and burn for eternity. Like,
nigga, there's no really in between.
Right,
what if I'm like just an okay person?
But
I'm
some
not
people
bad
have
or
that.
good.
Some religions have that. Like Catholicism is purgatory.
Right.
But I also feel like purgatory is more leaning, like how we got
towards
indica leaning. I think that though is leaning towards hell because you don't never hear nobody like rejoicing because they in purgatory.
Right.
It's more like, all right, I'm feeling a little bit blah because
literally
I don't know
stuck.
if I'm going up or down.
Right.
Type shit.
Right.
I mean, they have like the I don't know if you ever seen like Dante's Inferno.
I haven't seen it.
It's so it's this story about this dude who I don't know exactly the whole backstory, but I think something happens to his family or something. He goes to hell, and there's like seven levels of hell that he has to get through to get to the last level and like get out. But basically, it's like, so the first level is like just the people who I might be getting this wrong, but it's something like the people who are just like not evil, but they might have just like been kind of just like whatever about their life. Like they was just like don't really care, just here for a good time, not a long time, maybe suicidal, something like that.
Okay.
And then the second level is like maybe it might be like lust or something, and it
so
just goes
one
through
like
it.
The 7 things of sin.
Yeah,
one is the
like
worst,
that,
or is the
so
the
then
best?
so it's levels based on basically like who you were in your life. Right. So the first level is not that not as bad because it's just like, but 7 is like
okay.
Gotcha. But
I need to watch that.
Yeah, it was really actually good. It's like a cartoon kind of art style, but it's really like it's intense. Yeah, it's intense. It's like you see a lot of shit. But yeah, so that kind of like opened my eyes up to like maybe if you do believe in a heaven and a hell, maybe there are different levels to it. Because I can't imagine somebody who has been a good person all their life, like always done the right thing, and like the only thing wrong is they didn't accept Jesus as their savior, whatever, and you go to hell, the same hell that Adolf Hitler goes to, and it's like,
but like what's the determining factor on me going to hell? Like, I'm supposed to just follow all 10 of the commandments every moment of my life, and then I'm good?
But
is that the only condition that I'm good?
Leaves room for other sins that people say you're not supposed to do.
My nigga, it's like...
Because, I mean, even these people that are, like, in leadership in any type of church, I'm not going to say they too safe just because they
fucking around like a motherfucker,
yeah.
bruh. Mm-hmm. They be fucking around, fucking little kids and everything, bruh.
Stealing the money.
Bruh.
And that's another thing, too. It's like how you collect money in church, but then in the same breath say that the love of money is the root of evil.
Wait, hold on, because I want to get to that. I want to get to the being money hungry and shit, but I want to go back to the heaven and hell, like, dichotomy thing. Like, what if I like the idea, weirdly, that we're in hell right now. And, like, once we die... I'm not quite sure what I used to think it was. What do you call it?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yes, you do. Reincarnation.
Oh.
I used to be like, yeah, we gonna come back as something. I don't know if I get to choose. I probably don't, but I'm gonna come back as something. Now it's like I could just be fertilizer for the trees and shit, right? Which I'm totally cool with too. But that nothingness that happens after death might be heaven.
So is your idea, I might be reaching, but we're in hell right now working towards getting to heaven?
Well,
it's just, heaven is inevitable.
Okay.
Well, so
both are inevitable.
I want to say it's Buddhism. It might be Buddhism. I know it's one of them, but I know it's a certain religion. I really want to say it's Buddhism, but there's a certain religion that believes that the ultimate goal is to escape the cycle. So basically, you keep coming back until your karma is like level.
Even,
till you reach like whatever karmic position you're supposed to have. Like you keep coming back until you reach that purpose, and then the ultimate goal is to never come back and just it'd be the end of the cycle. Yeah, just nothing. A lot of people, like, their position is reach heaven and then that's it. But like, I think that to keep coming back until you figure out some point or some, like, there's something you're supposed to learn or something you're supposed to teach or something you're supposed to give to the world before your cycle is done. And I think that in itself is something that I could believe in, because it's like, if I know that there's a purpose for my life, I might not reach it in this lifetime, but you might reach it in the next one or the next one, But to consider that this is hell, it's very viable. Like, it's very, maybe a level of hell, or just a
we're at level number 3.
Like some type of level of hell, or maybe just some type of, like she said, like purgatory, where we kind of just stuck here until we figure out how to ascend to that next point.
That concept is interesting, because that makes me feel like, okay, so all my past lives were like, what was the point?
You were trying to find your purpose.
Yeah, that actually gives me more comfort than what I've
having its own purpose.
I think you have I
guess that can fall in line too, because
I mean,
it's all leading to that. So you had to finish that step to get to that final step.
Yeah, because it could all be one big umbrella of something. Like, maybe your ultimate goal is to be some type of like teacher, but it might take you 4 or 5 lifetimes to become that like knowledgeable to be able to be a teacher, because you might have to go through one lifetime where you might just be like like a firefighter or something, and then you go through that lifestyle, and then you die again, and then you come back as maybe like a zookeeper or something, and then it's like you die again and you come back, and then you finally reach that point where you're like, okay, now in this lifetime I'm a teacher, and then you might teach something that inspires somebody who's supposed to change the world, and then that is your cycle. I also believe that when it comes to like heaven and hell, if you can create, because I feel like if everybody's different, then everybody's hell has to be different. Like, if the purpose is for you to suffer forever, not everybody's gonna suffer from the same thing. So I think that if you're gonna create a heaven and a hell, I think there should be some type of, like, we should be able to create that for ourselves. Like, if you can create what hell is for yourself, then you should be able to create heaven too. So like, shouldn't we be able to create our own heaven? Like, maybe my idea of heaven isn't pearly gates and wings and halos. Like, maybe I just, like, my idea of heaven, I would just want to be like in a room with like every song ever.
And see how you explaining
that's
this?
Cute.
Like, how you going through
that's
this
cute as
and
shit.
running this through, like, this is what, like, I resonate with. And when I would say stuff like this, they would just look at me like, open your Bible. Like, did you not hear anything I just said?
But
wait, I like that question though. Okay, so that's your idea of heaven.
Yeah.
To be in a room with like every song ever created.
Yeah.
Even the SoundCloud rappers.
Yeah, and just play music. And whenever I want to think of a new song, like, I just think of a new song and it just plays. And I don't have to press nothing. I can just, and if I want to invite people, then I can just do it. Like, I can just think up somebody and then we can hang out.
And
then when I'm done,
yeah,
you can hang out with my heaven. And then when you done, you want to go back to your place, you do your thing, like.
Okay, what's your idea of heaven? What would be your ideal heaven?
Bro, let me just tell you. It's going to be a garden, and instead of eating, it's weed.
Yes, bitch! Yes!
I like that. Give me some healthy food options, but tons of unhealthy food options, too, because...
Your fruit punch.
See, I'm clean.
Wow! I'm
I've been
so proud of
right
you.
Now, so, yes. It's a lot more water in there.
Hello.
But, I just want to be able to vibe and be myself. Like, I don't want to have to pretend in my own heaven. Like, I feel like in today's time, no matter how hard we try to be our true, genuine self, it's always going to be like a little bit of time where we gotta put on this facade to
for sure
just get through.
Mm-hmm.
So my version of heaven is never having to do that, never having to conform to anything, but just be my true self, because that's like where my happiness is. When I'm myself, I don't have to pretend none of that stuff. That's when all that anxiety and I don't want to say depression, but like all the ill feelings come in when I can't just be my honest true self. And a little weed and food ain't gonna hurt.
Okay.
Doing the same thing.
Your dogs? Or you don't want to be fucked with them?
They can come.
Okay.
All the animals could come.
They're gonna be crazy as shit.
Too much. Like,
climbing the crates and shit.
That nigga, bro.
I mean, you ain't having enough, so they got space.
True.
So like unlimited space, like it's chilling.
Okay. My ideal heaven is a field of weed too, but I also want literally an unlimited number of dogs, and I'm good.
No spiders. I would like to put
absolutely no bugs. Are you fucking kidding me? Why? I don't need you here. There's no other bugs for you to kill. You can go. Go back to Earth. We're straight. Okay. Were you done with that point? The whole heaven and hell? Did anybody else have something they wanted to say on that?
I just think it's a reward versus a punishment thing.
I always had like I guess a question. And it's okay, if the concept of hell is to punish like people for the lives that they lived or whatever, doesn't that mean like, okay, so if the devil or Satan, whatever, is over hell, right? And his job is to torture like evil souls, does that make him a good person? Like,
if he's doing his job?
Yeah, like, I mean, because you think, like, the people that go to hell are, like, you know, like, rapists, pedophiles, whatever the fuck. So it's like, if his job is to torture them, doesn't it make him a good person? Like, a good guy?
If you ask me, no, because I don't think anybody deserves to be tortured.
I just think he doing the job that he was given.
He understood the assignment.
Exactly. But, I mean, initially, what I've been told, I'm not going to put this as truth or false, he was the right-hand man. He got too much dick on his chip and was like, I can be better than you.
Right.
Like, the same way we all supposed to be made in the image of God, in the likeness of God, somebody of themselves, like a human could probably think this, well, I ain't going to say devil or God ain't human or never had human whatevers, but, like, somebody could say that now and be like, I'm bigger than God. What's going to happen to them? Probably nothing. But, like, based on what we've been taught and all that stuff, he just had to go where he went because he just was like, all right, I'm about to overthrow this nigga, so it is what it is.
It's like, cast you down.
And even still, it's like, don't they pretty much have the same role? One is just for the good and one is for the bad.
And that's classified by who?
The people who write the books. Who gave them that authority?
That's like, I'm not for anyone being tortured. Like, even the rapists, pedophiles, all that shit. I think we were talking about this in the prison episode. Like, we don't try and rehabilitate niggas. So, like, there's no way for you to know if this person is, like, inherently just bad. Like, their brain is always telling them to do shit that harms themselves or other people. Like, always, always, always. We don't try and, like, get down to the source of shit, you know? So it's like, no, that does not make the devil a good person, if you're asking me.
As disposable.
What?
I said I think they're automatically viewed as disposable.
They are. They are.
Done.
But, like, you ask the right person, they would say the same thing about all of us.
Yeah.
As a rapist, just because we're black, you know? So it's like, who am I to judge a person based off of what they do? Like, somebody goes and robs a store and ends up killing somebody in the process because they about to get killed, but they was robbing that store because they had nothing to eat, like nothing to feed their family type shit, you know? Like, it's always something behind it, and we don't dig enough to really, like, we don't dig enough into people to really, like, see, like, are there inherently bad people, do y'all think?
I think that there are people who are born without empathy. I think you're not necessarily bad, but there are definitely sociopaths and psychopaths that genuinely don't have that feeling. Like, there's a certain feeling that you get when you, like, with people, where it's just you can't do certain shit to people because you just feel a certain type of way. But if you're born without that, or you develop that through like, you know, being hurt and things of that nature, then it's very possible to lose that sense of like I said, empathy, to where it's like I can just do shit to people and not give a fuck.
Exactly. But even then, I can't call you a bad person because you didn't choose that.
That's true.
You didn't choose that.
At the same time.
And is there a way to fix? Not fix, but like...
that's where you saying you didn't choose that, but you didn't choose a way to fix
Is there a way to change it if there's something with your brain?
Well, I mean, basically, like, if we want to get into the science of it, we always find a way to bring something back to homeostasis. So, like, how... I'm just going to put weed in it because that's the biggest science that I know right now. Come through,
weed doc.
But if we think about our endocannabinoid system, right? We have endogenous cannabinoids in our body already. So those are what are working to get our immune system, like all of our body systems, back to where they're supposed to be, balanced, right? We have this herbal medicine. It don't even have to be weed. It can be lavender. It can be flowers. It can be whatever. That have exogenous cannabinoids that also bring us back to homeostasis. They work with the ones that are already inside of our body. If we could find a way to put those things, like any natural anything, find a way to link those back to the same chemicals that person is without. True. We can figure out a way to quote unquote fix it. True. But that goes back to us using resources. Yeah. And what do these people don't want to do? Give us resources. They don't want to spend no money
for that type of shit. Yeah.
Exactly. The money that they're spending is to make themselves richer, not to make the world a better place. They're trying to keep population wherever it's supposed to be. Like,
so in that case, can we blame these sociopaths and psychopaths?
I think in a way you can. In a way you can't, but in a way you can. Because I feel like, okay, for psychopaths is different. Because psychopaths mean you're born like that. Right. That's more so like a matter of just like your makeup or whatever. Sociopath means that it was created. Like over time you went through enough traumatic shit where you just stopped giving a fuck. Okay. I think that in the same sense to where you could be a racist or, you know, any type of bigot, or just any type of trauma that you deal with where you have to carry that through your life. I think at a certain point it becomes your responsibility to deal with it, because it's like, yeah, we can all make the excuse that we were traumatized and things happened to us and and we all have the capacity, like as evil as we know Hitler is, we all have the capacity to be Hitler. Like the only thing that separates us from Hitler is the willpower and the influence that he had. But a lot of us, if we could pick, like not a lot of us, but there are a lot of people who, if they could pick a certain group and do the same thing and they had the capabilities to do it, they would. Right. So I feel like it's all a matter of how you deal with yourself. Like psychopaths, like I said, that's more so like a birth thing. Like you can't really control that. But I have heard that they're looking into researching like psychedelics, because they say that the same chemicals that are in like ecstasy or like mushrooms,
LSD,
they have that same like feeling of like, they give you kind of that empathy. So it's like it could be something to experiment with. I don't think that's I don't think that's the only solution, but I think that there's I don't know. It's a good one. Yeah, it's a solution. It's plant medicine, right? But then you have to ask about the dependency on it, because then it's like, okay, you don't want to be dependent on ecstasy or on mushrooms, like to be able to feel things with people. Maybe it could be like something to get you just to that point where you can, you know, get yourself there. But I don't know how much like a psychopath can really be saved. Like I don't know because it's like once you're born that way, it's kind of just, that's who you are. Like, not saying it's who you are, but it's that's a chemical imbalance. The same way as like having autism or some shit like that. Like, it's not, you can't take a drug and just not be autistic. So it's like, to be a psychopath means like you're born without that feeling to be able to care about people. So it's like, you can go through therapy and you can do all these things, but at the end of the day, they can't give you that that chemical. Like they can't.
Can it though? Like after a long enough treatment, can it like build it up so that your body is producing it on its own, like serotonin or like
think that's
like
reach though, because your body is never going to produce.
Yeah,
the amount
your body's not born to produce that.
Yeah.
So like I said, it goes back to dependency, because then you don't want a situation where somebody is.
So then the people that aren't rehabilitatable, let's just throw all them in a room together.
No.
You can't do that, because then you have to add. You have to ask
That's
what
segregation.
But that you can't. Add, all of them are on a all of them are on a.
No, you ain't talking.
On a spectrum. It's like a spectrum. It's like you can't just say, oh, because somebody's so like psychopathic that they automatically gonna kill everybody, because they might just kill themselves. And it's like, yeah, but then you have the other ones who might kill everybody. So it's like is. You can't just 100% say, okay, you're this, you're that. Y'all all go in this room and kill each other, and then everybody else be over here.
Okay, so we're going a bit off religion, but I'm really into it. No, I'm really into it.
Dante's Inferno, because now we categorizing these people in levels of which they want to kill somebody.
I'm just trying to keep prison out of the picture, right, or jail. So like, if we have these people that we've tried to treat them, we've tried to rehabilitate them, or just habilitate them. There's nothing to rehabilitate, like, and they it's not working. What do you do?
Let them be.
It's not going to be no damn execution style. You're not going to let them run free with the people that are like, that do have empathy and do have that, like, that willpower, to not kill other people or hurt other people. What do you do besides throw them in a room together?
But technically, that's what the jail is. They're just making money off of it.
No!
It definitely is. No. It's the same thing. It's the same concept.
No, but they won't be like, locked in cages and shit. It'll be a little bit more,
like Swedish jails.
I don't know.
They have like more like houses. Like it's not like jail.
There you go. They'll have their own little community. They can go outside. They can do whatever the fuck they want, but they are on their own little island. Yes. Since you've proven that you can't coexist.
Mm-hmm. But see, that goes back to like isolation, and like it might look prettier, but it's still isolation. Like you're still
just putting a bow on it.
Yeah, you still separating them from society, and they're aware enough to know, like, okay, I'm being separated from society because of something I can't change. Damn. So it's still the same concept.
I gotta go back and brainstorm on that thing, because that was my solution. Just throw them together.
Just rewrap it, repurpose it again,
Don't call it jail. Let them name it. You can name your own town.
I was going to get back to what Skxnni said about us all having the capacity to be versions of Hitler. Because if you think about it, like, this could be a reach too, but he's talking about how Hitler had the influence, he had the following, he had the voice or whatever to get all the people to follow him to do the shit he did. Mm-hmm. Basically what pastors is doing, basically what priests is doing. Like, they all have that influence.
Is that a part of human nature?
I mean, some people are just natural born leaders, and some people are natural born followers.
But once you get that kind of power, you, it's like the selfishness kicks up 5-10 notches.
I believe so.
Well, yeah. They actually had an experiment. I forgot where it was at, but they had an experiment where they had a bunch of people, and they would give one person like this, like it was a some type of working condition, but they gave a certain amount of people like leadership like roles, or they was supposed to be like the head or whatever. Yeah. And everybody else was working. It was showing that people in power automatically start to abuse it just off human nature. Mm-hmm. So I think that, but you have to, I think to create something like a Hitler, you have to have a perfect concoction of things. Like it can't just happen like naturally. It has to be it happens naturally, but it has to be like a certain set of events it has to line up. Because when you think about it, Hitler was born like the rest of us. He was raised in he went to school, he did it, like he had a life before what we know him for.
He became Hitler.
So it's like he was still a person. Right. But to be able to create that much destruction just meant that he had not only like the idea, but he had enough influence to make other people follow behind him, even when, because you have to take him, and then you take the people that were like his generals and like fought in his army, whatever. But then you also take the people who just kind of stood by and was like, well, I'm not Jewish, so sorry, like ain't me. Right. And you can look even in our society now, like with America, like we're a lot like that. It's like we'll see shit and we'll say like, oh, it don't affect me, so I don't give a fuck. Like when you look at like the vaccine shit,
everybody.
When you look at the vaccine shit, you see people who are vaccinated be like, oh, okay, what happened to anti-vax people? Like, I hope they'll lose their job. I hope they did this. I hope, all this shit happens. And it's like you see the similarity of how people are just so quick to like be against you as soon as you don't go with the status quo. It's like they quick to be like, I don't care if they die. I don't care what happened to them. I hope they all die. I hope they all da. Not knowing that, like, especially with black people, being able to see the correlation between that and how they thought of you. You know what I'm saying? Like, how they saw you. Like, I hope all y'all die. I don't care how y'all lives go. Like, but to have that same ideal of, now that I'm in the majority, I'm okay with the minority, like, whatever happening to them.
Yep.
And it's like, you don't even see the correlation because now you're in the majority.
Yep.
So you don't even picture it like, oh, this could be compared to this. It's just like, it don't concern me.
Right.
I did what I was supposed to do. So everybody that's in the minority is just like, whatever. And that's the same way religion is. Like, if I'm the majority, if I'm a Christian and you got a turban on your head or some shit, you a terrorist to me. And I don't have to, like, explain things. I don't have to make it make sense because you know what terrorists do. You know what terrorists look like. And when you think of terrorists, a image comes into your head. But when you go over there to where they at, they think a terrorist is us. Yep. Like, so it's like, it's really just the whole correlation between, like, how we find these boxes and identities. Mm-hmm. And attached to them so tight that we're not able to see ourselves outside of those things. So it's like, when you are a Christian, you can only see yourself as Christian. Yeah. And you can't really, like, detach yourself from that church or that lesson or whatever. So it's like, you might not have a problem with gay people, but because your church tells you to have a problem with gay people, you have to look at it sideways.
Yep. Yep.
It's
and
a tolerance versus acceptance thing to me. That, like, my opinion. I think that when, like how Skxnni said, you put yourself in that box, when you do that, until the table turns, like, you fall in line with that. Like, there's so many examples that you can say. Like, Emmett Till's mother, like, she said that would never happen to none of my family members dealing with what happened. Mm-hmm. This is a movie, but The Boy in Striped Pajamas, the general or whatever that was working under Hitler, he was like, this would never happen to my son. We not Jewish and shit like that. He made friends with a Jewish little kid, ended up being in a gas chamber and lost his son. So it's like, until people get out of that box or open their minds to other things and think this might not ever happen to me, anything can happen to anybody. It don't matter what religion you practice. It don't matter what your ethnicity is. It don't matter how much money you have. The black people in LA made enough money to buy the Marathon shopping mall. They still got left over because they black, not because they got money. So I'm kind of like contradicting myself because I like live by this. Financial freedom is my only hope. But it don't matter how much money you got. Black is black. Right. So it don't matter how much money you got, but
come work on my farm, Domo.
I can't be no
But yeah, I mean that's kind of the whole gist of everything. Like, humans are dogmatic beings. Like, they cling to these identities, these ideas, these theories, and they defend them so much because it becomes them. Like, that's how you self-identify, and that's why a lot of religious people can't really have productive conversations about religion, because they take everything that you're saying, like if you're questioning it in any capacity, they take it as an attack. And then they automatically go in the defense mode. And, when you're in defense, you can't really have much of a productive conversation at that point. Like, stop taking these ideas on as you. Right. You are your own person, my G. And even if you believe in God and heaven and hell, you don't have to believe in the whole gay people are bad. Like, it doesn't all go in one.
I don't think religion is bad in itself. I think the purpose of it is rooted in good things, just like everything else. I feel like I don't think humans create things for evil. I think everything that we have is meant to be a part of nature, and it's supposed to be a good thing. But I think we just pervert things to a point where it stops being about the original purpose and it starts to become like a a way of control or a way
some
of
other kind of motive.
Trying to divide
and quickly.
people.
It happens quickly. Like even things that are like constructed with wholesome intent, like that shit, it's gone.
Perverted, yeah.
It's gone very quickly. I have this quote. It says, "Absolute truth is accessible to humans, but not to rational minds." And I think that's why people tend to attach these like lessons and things that we take from religion to these crazy stories, you know, because that's like the most that people can like convey it to other people. Like that's how they can communicate that to other people. Like you can't really, like if you've experienced something godly, something godlike, you can't really
explain
verbally say that. Like people have to experience it for themselves, and you can't even really tell them how to get to that experience. Like because that you got there by following your own little journey.
Right.
Everyone has their own separate thing, you know. So it's like people had to come up with some way to make it communicable. Is that a word? Yeah. Hey, let's go. They had to come up with some way to make it communicable. But then, like you said, they just twist it, and then people get their own motives, and like those natural human characteristics kick in, and it's like now shit's all fucked.
Yeah.
But you don't. You were saying you don't think religion is bad because you think it started on something good.
I don't think. Okay, so I give you an example. When my dad passed away, my mom was like, you know, she heavy in the church, all that type of shit. If just being 100% honest, if she didn't have some type of religion or something to cling on to, it probably would have fucked her up a lot more. Yeah. Just real shit.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I don't think it's a bad thing that she had that.
Right.
Do I wish she could lean on better things or more, you know, I guess more tangible things, maybe. Like I wish she could detach from that and like really see herself instead of, you know, religion or God or whatever. But at the same time, if that helps her stay sane in the midst of her shit, like I can't tell her not to believe it. Like I can't take that away from her because that might be her only peace.
That's her.
Yeah, like that's her peace.
So might as well have no life at that point.
So it's like I think that religion has done a lot of bad. Obviously, like I think that the religion is one of the main thing that like separates us and divides us. So in that aspect, yes, it's very bad. But I don't think the common thing that holds religions or people of religions together is a bad thing. Like
it's all based on love.
Bro. Yeah, like when you see people fellowship together and like the way it's supposed to be, and people like loving on each other and in the name of God or whatever, it's like I don't have no problems with that. I don't see an issue in that. But then when you start to weaponize your religion to make other people feel shitty, because if you say, okay, I'm Christian, I believe Jesus, God, you know, all this shit, and then you meet somebody who is, I don't know, like Buddhist or some shit, and you say, oh, well, your religion's dumb because, you know, you don't believe in this or you believe in da-da-da, and I don't think that's right. Then it's like, now at that point, you're going away from religion and now you're taking it into a human kind of place.
Inserting yourself.
Yeah, you're inserting self.
And that's kind of why I had to stop with my way of thinking, how it's been building for the past, I don't know, half a year. Like, if you're taking advantage of capitalism, that's bad, bad, bad. No, you're not contributing to the good of the world or whatever. But that's the same thing. Like, because you're not living the way that I'm living, or you don't believe in the things that I believe, that makes you bad. And that makes me good. Like, that's not, you can't coexist with people like that. And it took me a while to realize that. But even in like the capitalism episode, I think you can kind of hear like that like theme. Like, it's like, my nigga, if you working a 9 to 5, if you're doing anything to like make money and that is your sole purpose, my nigga, do better type shit. And it's like, nah, that's just how it works for them. And there's really nothing wrong with that.
It's like everything like that we're subscribing ourselves to is just a means of survival at that point. Like, and like me, I don't think that religion is bad. I just think, like how Skxnni said, is the weaponization of it, if that's the word, and then the way that it's conveyed. Like, I still listen to gospel music every day.
That should be bumping.
Busting.
Kirk Franklin know what he doing, bruh.
I still read the Bible from like time to time because the actual words in the Bible are timeless. It can help you with any situation that you're in.
There. Yeah.
So
definitely.
It's just when people be like, if you do this, this means this. That was really what threw me off. The whole thing of comparing different sins. Like, okay, I only stole $50, but you just slept with this man and y'all not married and y'all had a kid, and then it just keeps snowballing and snowballing and snowballing, but you stole. So either way, we still both did something bad.
Right.
So that's when I started thinking, okay, this is bad. Religion sucks.
And I think that's really based on, because when you think about it, there's no direct line to the Bible. Like, there's no one we can directly ask to say, okay, what does this mean? Like,
nope.
Everything is based on just reading comprehension and what you believe for yourself. Like, you might read something and think, oh, it means this, and then somebody else tell you, like, it means something else. So yeah, it's perception. It's like when you read a book, like, two people could read a book and get two different things out of it, depending on where your head is and where you're thinking from. So it's like, to be able to have that and then say, okay, everybody has to believe the same thing from reading the same book. It's kind of impossible, because it's like you have billions of different perspectives all reading the same story, and you got two people who could be in the same house that read the same story, like me and my mother, and got two different things out of it. Like, she can read it from a kind of a blind place and just not take it literally. I read it and I was like, wait, so he killed everybody? Like, he just flooded everybody, like the kids and everything too? Right. Like, but when you think about it like that, you're not thinking of God as like this just, blessed,
this man's a murderer.
This nigga killed you.
Yeah.
Like, he killed a bunch of people.
Like, place your, like, unintentionally, unconsciously place your own situation into what you're reading, so then that puts it more into your own perspective. Somebody else that's reading the same thing could be going through something completely, totally different. You could be going through your version of hell, and they could be going through their version of heaven. You come back and convene on what you read, and they're like, wow, that was magnificent. And like he said, this man killed everybody. Like, what are we gonna do?
Just like you said, it's all a big ass game of telephone, bro.
Yeah.
Big ass game of telephone. And people basing their whole lives on that shit and then condemning other people for not. It's like it's asking for a big ass clusterfuck, to be honest.
Is that like a way of entitlement? Like, just making something, how do I explain it?
I think,
like, just saying, like, this is how it is.
This is it.
Yeah.
I think that's it's a smidge of narcissism.
Okay.
Yeah. I think
yes,
it's
entitlement too.
It's a product. Sure. Well, yeah, okay. So I think because we've all been raised kind of like in a Christian, background, I think the entitlement comes from Christianity kind of being like the number one religion.
Yeah.
So you can kind of like stand on your shit and not have to worry about somebody arguing with you, because 9 times out of 10 you're gonna have majority rule. Like, if I go on Twitter and I say some shit about Christianity, whatever, I'm sure it's a lot more Christians that are gonna argue, against me than like if I was to say something about, I don't know, like Confucianism. You know what I'm saying? It's like nobody really gonna say nothing about that, because nobody's really that like directly studies that. But when most of the world is Christian and you say something about Christianity, it's like you have that backing of like a lot more people. It's majority
this whole
rules.
Country.
Like, yeah, you have majority rules, and it's like when you have that, you can kind of like go on blind faith and say, okay, I don't have to read the Bible or believe half the shit. I just have to be in the same standing with everybody else that does. So I don't necessarily have to fully believe Christianity. I can just say, well, religion cool, like Christianity cool. Like, sometimes sometimes I might think of going to church. I might pick the Bible up. I ain't read it, but I picked it up. You know what I'm saying? Like, but as long as you can say like I'm Christian, it's like you don't have to communicate anything. Like, if I come to you and I say I'm not a Christian, now there's questions like, so what are you? What religion are you? Like, what do you practice? What do you believe in? Da, 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 da. If I just tell you I'm Christian, you're like, oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
that's the end of it.
Definitely be happening.
Christianity is literally this country's religion. Like, it's infused in everything. I mean, you go to the court, they have the first thing they pull out is the Bible for you to swear on, and you
can actually swear on whatever you want to.
You have to request anything else, but what do you call it?
Yeah.
I can't think of the word. Yeah, that works. It's the Bible. Like the separation of church and state, it's not a thing.
It's not. They literally had God on the money, but whatever.
Bruh.
In God we trust.
Right.
And every politician preaches from a God place. They always say like, I'm a Christian man and I have a Christian family and da da da.
We were supposed to go back to it, but the church was collecting money and whatnot. Being classified as a business and shit. Shit, let us build a church.
What we gonna talk about?
It's just gonna be where we host all the episodes.
Like we just play it. They just call it.
Just so we could not pay any taxes. That'd be lit.
But real shit though, like anybody could make a church. It really doesn't take much. Like you could just go up there and just say some divine shit, or just say some shit. Like the stories I be hearing like at church when like coming up, like the stories I would hear. Sometimes they be like, I was at the gas station and this man was outside and he dropped his $1 and I told him, you dropped $1 and then he gave me $1 million. Oh, man. And now let me tell you, it's like, nigga, when
just made that up.
When did this happen? Because I need to meet him.
I need receipts.
I cannot tell y'all how shocked I was. I was listening to a church service. I think it was one of the Clock sisters, and she cursed in the church.
Oh.
And I said,
no,
she ain't do that. She was like, well, she can say that.
What'd she say?
I don't even know.
She definitely didn't say fuck.
No, she didn't say that. She said, I think she said bitches and niggas. I swear she said that. And
she went hard.
Damn. Like, Mom, all this time you told me I couldn't curse. And she in this church house speaking like this to these people.
That's crazy, dog.
So yeah, I was like, wow. She was like, well, everybody's not perfect. I said, well,
shit, nobody perfect. I mean, if the goal is perfection, then it's like, and I think that's another thing too about religion. Is like, I think it creates that like kind of like that level you can't reach. And it does it on purpose to make you always strive to reach it.
Yep.
But it's like
with jobs.
Yeah, so it's like you're never gonna be good enough. Like you're always if I'm comparing myself to Jesus Christ, there's no way I'm ever gonna be that good. So it's like you're always saying like, oh well, I'm good, but I'm not Jesus good, or I'm great, or I'm blessed or whatever, but I'll never be like this, or I'm nothing. Like I literally see people say shit like I'm nothing without God, and it's like, why would you ever say something about that?
They gotta keep trying and keep giving more money.
And even still, if you do get to Jesus, like, where does that get you?
On the damn cross.
On the cross.
With nails in your hands.
He died at 33 years old.
I'm good, bro.
Talking about Jesus died. This man died for all of these strangers that he never knew.
He ain't fuck with none of them.
Man, let me tell you. I would like to be somebody who you could touch the hem of my garment and turn your whole life around, though.
But
that would be pretty special.
So look, I was looking up
something. You probably could just meditate enough or something.
I was looking up something. They had a video about Jesus, like if Jesus was a real person. So basically there's no historic evidence other than the Bible that Jesus ever existed.
I tell you, folks.
Any of it that came out, it has been
through the Bible.
Debunked since.
Yeah. So basically, they have no real story of Jesus. And then if you look at the 4 disciples, I think it's Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. If you read their 4 stories, there are a lot of like contradictions between them. Like I think. I'm probably gonna get this wrong. I don't care. In like Matthew or Mark, it says something about what heaven or what hell looks like or something like that. But then in Matthew it says something else. Like it's just a lot of contradictions. Like if you read all 4 of their stories, there's a lot of contradictions. Then it goes back to the point that all of them were like criminals. Like all the disciples were like criminals, robbers, rapists, all types of shit, like thieves, all types of shit. And I just think it's weird that there's no, for all the history that we have, like we can literally trace history back to the first civilization, like the first people in Africa. But somehow nobody ever wrote about a nigga giving niggas fish and bread or changing water to wine or walking on water. Like there's no story anywhere in history, like in any historic book or anything that tells those stories. And you would think if somebody was doing the type of shit that Jesus was doing, somebody would have wrote something about it. Like, it would have been at least one story of somebody being like, yeah, I met this dude today, and he healed. In the stone, yeah, right? Like, it would have been whole big ass, like, it would have been a thing. Like, we would see it all throughout history. Like, there was this guy who came and he did all these wonderful things and blah, 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 blah. And then that goes back to how they were saying, well, we might get into it, like, later, but they were talking about how the story of Jesus was based off of, like, something that was written, like, thousands and thousands of years before, like 2000. We saw it when they was talking about the pagan gods and all that shit.
In Zeitgeist?
Yeah. So basically that religion was already established like years before. And what happened was it was three different like civilizations. So they had a big ass stone. You ever heard of a Rosetta Stone?
Yes.
Okay, so Rosetta Stone.
Why you say it like that?
Like the language thing?
No, look, I'm about to tell you though. So the basis of that is Rosetta Stone, the actual stone, is a stone of 3 different languages put together. So the first one is like hieroglyphics. The second one is like Greek, I think, or something like that. And then there's another one that's like some type of like early Egyptian language. But basically they all tell the same story. And it's all about the story of Jesus. But it's wrote way before before Jesus' time. So it was a story, the same story, 3 wise men, virgin, they went through his life, died on the cross, same story, but it was wrote like I said, like 2,000 years before the actual story of Jesus. So it's like,
and then they set him up to disappear so that he never had no place for us to go look to find
there's
him.
no remains, no bones, nothing. So it's like,
it sounded like a setup.
Yeah, pretty much.
I love when like Christians are like talking to non-Christians and they bring up the dinosaurs thing and like literally have nothing to say.
That was one of my big first questions. Like, that was one of the first questions that led me away from the church, was like, okay, so I'm reading this shit that says in the beginning he made the heavens and earth, blah 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 blah. Where did dinosaurs come in? Because it's like, there's no way they coexisted with dinosaurs and nobody wrote nothing about that.
It's just
they don't believe in science.
The theory of evolution and Christianity conflicts so much, and there's only so much proof on one side, which is the theory of evolution. Like, there's little to none on the other side. But yet, that is what runs prevalent. Mm-hmm.
But then it's like, how can you say...
Niggas are dumb.
How can you say... the science, like, don't believe science, believe God, but then be the same person and be like, get the vaccine because it's science.
Child.
It's like,
get the fuck out of my face, bro.
If you believe in God, you should just believe that God got you. Like, God gonna protect you. He's not gonna let you die.
He gonna get you that bad.
He gonna get you. Like, you ain't gonna get sick if you.
And if you do, it's because you're supposed to die. Because God said so,
supposed
right?
to die.
That's what God decided, so it was cool.
I know someone who's like that though. That won't go to the doctor. They be like, God got me. I won't be going to no dentist. I'm too tripping.
Talk your shit, babe.
But see, then in the same vein, it teaches in the Bible that God gives you wisdom. So it's like, if you have the wisdom to go do something about your health or go do something, then it's like, in that same vein, like, you gotta trust the doctor. So it's like, it's just conflicting because it doesn't make sense to me.
And then it's not mathing, baby.
There's certain religions that don't practice like blood transfusions and shit like that. So it's, yeah. So it's like, you have that type of shit where
literally
it's like
dying and all you need is blood.
Right.
And they're like, no.
Literally. And
you gotta die.
One of my friends, her grandmother is Jehovah's Witness. And she sneezed one time and I was like, God bless you. She did not say nothing.
She's like, get out of my house.
Like, you can't do none of that kind of stuff. You tell her happy birthday, she just look at you. Like, it's like that deep.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I guess.
Yeah. And they all supposed to believe somewhat in the same thing. I mean, not exactly the same thing, of course, but it's so many subsets of just Christianity where it's like, you got, like, you was talking earlier about Lutheranism, and then you still have like Protestant, whatever.
They're kind of like the same.
Yeah, it's like the same thing, kind of. Then you have like Catholic. Then you have like, they have so many like different ones that.
What's it called? I think it's that.
I think I know what you're talking about. Like I don't know. It's so many ones. It's just like.
And I don't know like what.
Well, I don't know the name. I know one of them believe that like Mary is like the person. Like, we supposed to like focus around Mary.
Oh,
I forgot which one. That might be Catholic, but I'm not 100% sure.
Mary.
Yeah, don't quote me. But I think that's Catholic, where they really praise like Mary.
Catholics are. I don't know.
Then you got like Protestant where they believe in Jesus, and you know, Lutheranism is like where you believe that you just find salvation through faith, and you don't have to necessarily like. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it's just where you don't have to like get baptized and like go through the whole like process. It's just like you just have faith and you just believe. But yeah, it's just like it's so many like off brands of like Christianity where it's like how can you even believe in a religion where you and somebody else have the same religion but y'all don't believe the same shit? That don't make sense to me.
It's smelling like human all up in that bitch. And it's like, I'd rather just not. So when people ask y'all if you're religious, what do you say?
No.
Are you don't say like, oh, but I'm spiritual?
I mean, no, I don't have to explain that. I don't know what I am, honestly. I just believe in me. Like, I don't have a direct, and like if you was to ask me like what religion I subscribe to or like what I practice or what I believe in, I guess like I'm spiritual, but it's like even in that I'm not like completely tied to everything in it. Like I believe it to a certain extent, but I think there are some things.
About spirituality.
Yeah, even in spirituality, there's certain things where it doesn't really like resonate with me.
Yeah.
I guess.
For sure. Literally, just take what you need and go.
That's where I'm at with it because even still, like in spirituality, I still have hella questions that cannot be answered. Yeah. Like,
I mean, is there a set thing for spirituality? Like,
no, I think spirituality is more based in your own journey. I think for me, the main thing that I kind of not question, but the thing I kind of wonder about is when people start to talk about like their ancestors and things of that nature, because it's like
and the cards, because like you shuffling these cards and they flying out, right? But who is telling you when these cards gonna fly and how you know when these cards is gonna say? Like, come on now.
I ain't gonna lie though, I've had a couple tarot card readings and they was pretty accurate, so it's like maybe it's something to it, but I guess, but then at the same time, you could just be drawing shit and then just make an interpretation out of it.
Based all of what I told you and stuff like that. That's the part where my skepticism comes in because the few people that I have had do my personal readings know me personally. So it's like, okay,
you cheating.
You could have picked something up from yesterday. You could have looked through my Twitter. You could have went on my Instagram. Like, who's to say that the ancestors is really telling you what's going on?
Do y'all believe that you can communicate with your ancestors?
I think it's
or that you have access to them?
Maybe? I think it's a more complicated thing than we make it. I think that to just be like, okay, I'm gonna go on ancestry.com and follow back my lineage, and then I'm gonna just start talking to them. Like that to me is kind of like bogus. Yeah, like that to me kind of bogus. I do think that
like making altars and shit. I mean,
yeah, like that type of shit. I mean, if that like that's the type of shit where I'm like, I don't know if I'm fully like with it. Like I'm not gonna tell nobody not to do it because however you make that make sense. That's cool. But I guess for me it's more so like, I don't know who I'm talking to. Like, I could be talking to anybody and just be saying shit, and it could be a demon or some shit.
My uncle.
Yeah, right. Like it could be a demon or some shit, and I'm just like, yeah, help me, this situation. He's like, all right, I got you, bro. And then you end up fucking some shit up, and thinking like, nah, my ancestors told me to do this.
On your Ghost Rider shit,
right?
Damn.
That's anything where I feel like I have to kind of like bridge that gap and like make my own like assumptions or my own like. I don't know, my own like interpretation, then I'm gonna automatically be like kind of sketchy because I'm just like, I know my interpretation is gonna be different than somebody else's, so it's, I don't know.
And I'm not way too confident in contacting these like spiritual beings because if I do contact the wrong one, and it's gonna get. I watch a lot of TV.
You definitely gotta know what you're doing. Like you gotta know what you into and like really. I believe in that as far as like spirits and like drawing spirits and things of that. I definitely believe in that. Like you can definitely summon certain energies and things just by the things you do and how you choose to live and things like that. I don't know if it goes back to like ancestors or if it's maybe it might be like past lives. It might be like like some Avatar shit. It might just be people that have been in your situation in a past life or old spirits who just get where you at. But I also think that maybe not demons, but I definitely think like low vibrational energies can like attach to you if you're opening yourself up to those type of things and you're like receiving all these things. Like I definitely think that those type of like dark things can like slip through the cracks if
Which
you
is why
if
you
you
can just
allow
be
it.
practicing that shit and not knowing what the fuck
Exactly.
you're doing.
Like
White people.
Right, and that's why I don't even think that shit is for them. Why you want to contact your ancestors? For what?
Ain't do shit.
What good are they bringing to
told me
you
that
besides
if you white, you
racism,
can't
right?
even call them ancestors.
Like, literally.
Nah.
Literally. Like.
But I heard on the level of voodoo, like, unless it's in your family tree, like, you're not supposed to practice.
Oh.
I mean, that would make sense.
See, I love, like, the concept. I love the idea of being able to talk to the people that I come from. Because I personally believe that, like, all of our ancestors are within you, like, forever. Like, they make up you along with you type shit. So I can't really say if I'm, like, completely... agree with the whole ceremonial type shit, but it's because I haven't really like done enough research into it. Like I'm pretty ignorant to that, so it's like I'm open to it. I love to hear about people that do it and their practices, but as far as me just setting up some shit and like, grandpa, where you at type shit, I'm not finna do that.
Yeah, no.
Because you don't know who your grandfather was.
Exactly.
You might have
Then
been
you're
an
not
asshole.
even being specific. Everybody call grandpa.
Exactly. I don't know what
Calling
I'm
somebody else
asking
grandpa.
for. Like, I don't, like, there's certain ways to do the shit.
Yeah,
So, but I do like it as a concept.
yeah.
I think it's very interesting.
I think out of everything that people choose to believe, I think whatever brings you closest to nature is like what you should really believe in. I think regardless of what your religion is, I think the number one thing is just getting back to nature, because it's like everything is rooted in this world. Like if you look at the way the world is constructed and how everything moves, it's like it moves with a purpose. Like everything trickles into something else.
All connected.
Everything is connected. So whatever connects all those things for you is what you should believe in. That's why for me Christianity doesn't really work, because it's like a lot of the teachings that are in Christianity are very like human type things. And it's like the lessons can be good if you're living, while you're living in a human world, and you have to, adapt to a human world. But I think at our core, we're not like that. Like, we're not supposed to even be that, I don't know, like that far out, I guess. Like, I think a lot of our thinking as far as religion goes just comes from fear. And a lot of
ignorance.
just ignorance. That's not knowing what happens when we die. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna just make something up to make myself feel better.
Because I think if a lot of people did not have religion to lean on, they would have been out of here. They would have been took themselves and probably other people out. Because like people need something to lean on. Like you said with your mom, like we said with slavery. Like, imagine niggas trying to get through slavery without having something to have faith in.
They wasn't.
My nigga, ain't no way. Ain't no way. So it's like, that's why I don't even really like unless someone initiate, like a religious person initiates it, I'm not finna argue you down, bro.
I'm not talking about it at all.
Yeah, we not about to do it.
Unless somebody approaches me with a conversation, and then it has to be something
You have to have
educated.
substance.
Yeah, like it can't just be, oh yeah, I
Reciting the
heard
scriptures
this.
to me
Yeah,
and
like
shit.
you're reciting something, you're reading something word for word, but you're not bringing anything to the table that's not already there. Like,
I mean, that's what most people do though. They just read something and they regurgitate, but they don't actually question it. It's like a lot of these people they was raised in the church. Grandmother made them go to church, and then they just kind of went with it. And it was like, it's easier for me to accept this than to have to create my own identity outside of that. So it's like, I'm gonna just take these scriptures and just say them back to you, and hope that, it gives you an answer to something. But it's like, realistically, you're not taking the time to really like question the things that you're reading or saying. Like, you just kind of saying it back to other people and hoping that it resonates. But it's like, if you can't essentially like question your own religion, then it's like you're only gonna get like the surface level of it. So it's like, you could say you're religious and da-da-da-da-da, but if I ask you like a certain question about the Bible, if I ask you certain things and all you can say is, oh, well, you just got to believe, then it's like, at that point, you kind of give people that open reign to say like, I don't want to believe. Like, I don't want to have to go through the mental hoops of like trying to rationalize why my dad died or why this happened or why that happened. You know what I'm saying? Because shitty thing happened to people, and it's like to be like everything happens for a reason and God has a purpose. Like, how do you tell that to somebody who's been raped, or how do you tell that to somebody
who lost their baby?
Yeah,
like,
that lost their kid. Like,
born.
how do you tell somebody like, oh yeah, God has a purpose for that? Like, that's not.
Fuck out of here.
That's not
And
it.
like when I first separated myself from the church, like that was one of the main, other than like the whole contradicting part, that was like the second main reason, because like if somebody is going through something as hard as that, like losing a family member or like going through something so traumatic, like how do you just tell somebody a faith-based thing that's not concrete, this is so because it is?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I used to be an asshole. Like, when people would say that, I would just keep asking more questions, because how are you going to tell somebody who is sitting here, like, devastated that it's going to get better just because he said it's going to get better?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Have y'all heard of the concept of religion, or religion being based on astrology?
I think it's definitely derived. I think a lot of the ideals and a lot of the things, the numbers and things that are used are a lot of astrological like things, because the civilizations before, like, you know, the big religions were established and all that, like there was a lot of study of like the stars and the moon and the sun. That's where time comes from, like the study of the sun, because a lot of people, going back to what I was talking about before with like the Rosetta Stone and all that, so that God was already established. Like, people knew like about the pagan gods and all that shit. People knew about that whole story. So basically, when you knew all that, it's like you knew it was based on something. So if it was based on the stars, if it was based on the moon, whatever. But these civilizations came way before any like world religion or, you know, big thing like that was established. So to have that already in plan, like, so before the Crusades and all that shit happened, there were people who were like, even through the Crusades, there were people like, no, that's not true. Like, you can't just make up Jesus and all this shit, because we know the real story. Like, we know where it comes from. We know. So those are the people that got killed or whatever, so that they could push this agenda like, okay, we just gonna believe in the Bible. But when you have people that knew like the Bible wasn't 100% real or wasn't 100% accurate, and then you get rid of those people, and then you only have the people left that say, okay, it's real, then you can create whatever, you know, idea you want to. But at the beginning of time, there was no religion, there was no none of that. It was just the stars, the moon, nature, the planets, everything.
And the sun has been idolized forever. Like, it provides light, warmth.
They had to stop people from praising the sun.
Right.
Like, they had to literally, like, when they were going through this transition into like Christianity and all that, they still had to stop people, because people would, it's some church or something that's like, people would go there like every day and like go on the steps and pray to the sun god.
As you should, motherfucker.
And they had to like stop people from doing that. Right.
That's how you got the light to see to get up.
We've been praising the sun forever. That's just in us. Like, the sun is like it's our fuel. Like, you ever had like a really bad day, and then you just went outside, and you just feel better, because it's like
shit up.
That's our life force.
Especially black people.
When I was in middle school, bruh, it might have been like the end of elementary too, but I used to be so into Greek mythology because of that reason. Like, I wasn't like practicing it or nothing like that, but I was like really interested, because it was like these people are appreciating what they see is happening. Like, you have a rain god because it's raining. Like, you see what's going on. You have the sun god because the sun is providing this. You have the god of delivery because your packages is coming. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Not the Amazon.
Like, you seeing all of this stuff happen, so that's why you're thanking this being, because it's right in front of you.
And imagine if we continued with that way of thinking. Like, we would not be as close to this earth ending as we are.
We wouldn't.
Like, if we continue to praise these things that literally give us direct life, instead of these systems, these man-made systems, you know? So it's like, I think we watched it together. We did. Zeitgeist, in the very beginning, the first movie is split into 3 parts. The first part is all on religion.
Where can I find this?
Tubi.
Okay.
Tubi TV. It's a free streaming platform on the internet. Literally everybody. Tubi TV. It's the only platform that you can find this movie, and it's 3 different parts. So the first movie is split into 3 parts. The first is religion. The second is 9/11. The third part is the Federal Reserve.
Okay.
The religion part is literally just highlighting, bullet pointing every single thing of like most religions and explaining the correlation to astrology.
Okay.
So it's like the sun is Jesus, you know, sun, like the wordplay or whatever. And because the sun is what gives us like warmth, light, and then God being, or Jesus being like this being of light or whatever, you know. Like tracking stars allow for the tracking of time with like eclipses and full moons and shit. And celestial groups were categorized into constellations, like horoscopes and stuff. So they didn't just track the stars, but they had to personify them with these exaggerated stories, like I was saying earlier, to be able to communicate it with people. And so it like goes over all these different things. Like it lists a bunch of different gods, like that are from like different parts of the world. You know, like India had Krishna, Greece had Dionysus, Egypt had Horus. And it literally, like, they all of their lives have like the same major points, like born of a virgin, like followed by a star in the east, perform miracles, warned of their coming, perform miracles, Alpha and Omega, resurrected. They all have the same thing that happened.
And that's why I'll say it go back to like the whole Rosetta Stone thing. It's like this story has been retold like by every, you know, major civilization. So it's like maybe it's just like the running thing. Like maybe that's just a story that we've had in our, you know, in our like humanity since, you know, BC times.
So like all these stories change, all the names change, story stays the same, and what also stays the same? The stars, the sky, the constellations, all that shit is the same. Nothing has changed since this shit first developed. So I really love like that idea, and like I couldn't write down everything that they correlated with. They literally broke it down like a motherfucker. Like even to the point where like the cross that has a circle in the middle on top of most churches is, what was that? Like was it a sign of paganism or something?
Yeah,
isn't that like Ra?
Yeah, well, that was one of the
That's his sign.
Horus and what is it? Horus and Set is like the, I guess, the equivalent to.
There was like dark and evil, right?
Jesus and, you know.
Yep, there's always a good versus evil in every religion, and that could be equated to like the sun rising and the sun setting.
I just want somebody to get all the people that like say your religion is not right because my religion is this. I want all those people to sit in the room and one person to read everybody's story so they could just hear it's the same story.
Well, most religions are based on the same story. Like if they might have a different, like a couple things that, you know, are different, but for the most part, every religion, or I say every main religion, like most the you know, the big ones, are based on the same story. It's just, you know, you take out a little bit, you add a couple parts, and then just
make it fit you.
Yeah,
you know?
You make it fit you.
Literally plagiarism from school. Yeah. You know, you take the essay from online.
Fail me.
Tweak a word or two, and now it's yours.
Now it's your shit,
and
you can teach whatever you want to.
So I was watching, this is like the last major point that I want to make. I was watching this video on YouTube that kind of, how he says it broke down religion and why people are so on it, you know, why they take it on so much to pretty much be them. Okay, so let me start with this analogy. Oh boy. Okay. This shit is deep, y'all. I was literally like at work, like trying to jot down this shit because I was like, I'd never heard no shit like this. Okay. So existence is nothingness. Right? Our existence, we're born out of nothingness. And the nothingness doesn't go away because when we die, we go back to nothingness. Right? So that nothingness is God. That source, that's literally nothing, is God, right? And it's the source of everything. But because we came from nothing, everything came from nothing, everything is godlike. Everything is God. Right? So the analogy that he said was, oh boy, it's like jailbreaking an iPhone. So phones come with like software already in the phone, you know, like security measures to make sure you can't break it. Like that's like us and our dogmatic principles, all the things that we believe, all the ideas and theories that we take on that makes us us. Those are the security measures, right? But your psyche is constantly fighting you along the way, like that inner voice, constantly questioning everything, right? Once you find a good enough hacker, you can do all kinds of shit with the iPhone. Once you break down those security measures, that iPhone could be literally anything. You could anything, customize the fuck out of it. So you have to be nothingness, and you can't explain or communicate it. You just have to be it. Once you start trying to talk about it and communicate it, you conceptualize it, and then it becomes something. You literally just have to be, which is like the hardest concept to grasp. I don't even know if that made sense, but that was the point. It's the hardest concept to grasp, to have no self-identity, to just be.
Because somebody's always going to be like, who are you?
I'm me.
Well, see,
and you're you. I'm not Tiana. You're not Domo. You're not Skxnni. You're you. Because you were somebody before you were Skxnni. You were somebody before you got your name. You were somebody before you became a male. You were somebody before, you were a human. You were something.
That's kind of the essence of like Buddhism and like Taoism. It's basically that at our core we're nothing. Like we're just here.
Yes.
And then we kind of attach labels to ourselves that help us kind of navigate the world. So
help us
like,
understand reality.
Yeah, just put labels and titles on things. So it's like I can say like I'm a black male, blah 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 blah, but at the end of the day, my skin color is only a projection of somebody else. So if I never learned what I was or what skin color I was considered, I would never know that. And it's just like with kids, it's like when you see kids, they don't think like, oh, this person's black, this person's a girl, this da da da. They just know people. And then they meet you, and then you as an adult, you explain, oh, well, this person's this person's that, da da da. And now you say, okay, I'm going to attach this to this type of person because now my parents told me this means this person's black. This means this person's this.
Exactly.
This is tall. So, like, my what I consider tall is different than somebody who's shorter than me. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you really never have a title or any type of...
You are just you.
You just you.
Stop trying to subscribe to all these different labels. Stop trying to put other people in these boxes with these labels. Just be and let other niggas be.
That's really the core of finding like your place and your humanity is letting go of the titles and things that you subscribe to. Now that doesn't mean that you can completely erase them because you still have to exist in a world that is going to give you a title or a certain place or whatever.
Exactly.
So it's like I might say I'm not black because I don't want to call myself that or whatever. But if I go out and nigga, somebody's gonna be like, nigga, you black. Like, you don't have no choice in that shit. So it's like, it's really just bigger. It's bigger than just the labels and the titles. Even like with religion, it's like that. Like how we were saying, how people attach themselves to that. So I was looking at this video. It's this dude, I don't know if y'all know, his name's like Sadhguru, something like that. But he's like a Buddhist or some he's like spiritual, like really spiritual. And he was talking about talking to this white guy, and the white guy was like, okay, so how do we like detach ourselves from these labels and these things? And he was basically like, you create a space between yourself and these titles. So it's like you can still say I'm religious, I'm da 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 da, but you have to be able to like distance yourself from it to be able to say, okay, that's a part of the identity that I created, but it's not me. It's just a part of the identity. And those two things are different because at that point now you can question it because it's not a part of you. Whereas if I say I'm a Christian, now I have to embody what Christian means to me. Instead of just living a life that I want to live, I have to now be like, okay, is that a Christian thing to do? Is that a Christian thing to do? And it's like, you're not living authentically, you're living a Christian lifestyle. And it's like you have to kind of allow yourself to be Christian. Like still you can you know, praise God and do all these things, but when somebody questions that, you have to be able to detach yourself from that title and be able to say, okay, why would they question this? Like, how does this make sense? Let me ask the questions that they're asking so that I'm better able to, like, if I want to stay a Christian, how I'm better able to answer questions and do that type of thing. But if I ask a question to myself and it doesn't make sense, now I have the ability, and I think that's the scariest thing for people, is knowing some shit and now being able, like, not being able, but being forced to kind of face it. So it's like, if I learn certain shit about Christianity and now it doesn't make sense to me, now it's my job and mine alone to kind of question my own beliefs. Yep. And now I have to, on my own, create a new kind of like security system for when things go bad. Now I can't blame God no more. Now I can't, you know, just go to church and do da. Like, now I have to create a whole new system. It's like, once you know and you're knowledgeable about something, you can't unlearn it. So now you either settle for the knowledge that you had before and say, I'm not gonna, like, change how I am based on what I learned. But then you have this internal, like you say, your psyche, where you have this internal battle with yourself where you're like, I don't believe in half of this shit, but this is all I've known my whole life. So it's like, where do I go from here? So now you're constantly battling yourself, like day in and day out, to be a Christian, but you don't really believe in what you're saying. So that becomes a whole thing of, like, it's an inside battle. But if you're able to detach yourself and say, I'm not just a Christian, like, I'm not just my religion, I can now say, okay, well, this don't really make sense to me, so now I can go find something else that makes more sense to me. Exactly. Even if that is being a Satanist, even if that is being, you know, a Buddhist, even that means if you know, want to study something else. It's like, the point is to not attach yourself to the labels that you've established over the years, even if down to, like, the adjectives that people gave you. Like, if you say, I'm a lazy person, I'm a generous person, because even when you say I'm a good person, you start to create this idea of what a good person is. And now when you go out, you might do a good deed for somebody that puts you in a bad place. Like, if I sacrifice something that I have, like some money, I give somebody some money, and I know I only got $1, you know, to my name, and I give my last dollar to a homeless person, it's like, yeah, you did a good deed, but now you broke, and now you fucked. Like, now you got to be in the same position because you're trying to be what you think a good person is, because you don't want to feel bad, like, oh, I got to give them something. But it's like, no, you just do what makes sense in that moment for yourself, and you let the people around you kind of define what you are or who you are, and you just allow that to be their perception of you. Because it's like, when you think about it, when you meet people, they're only getting, like, a snapshot of you. Yep. They don't get your whole life story. And even if they got your whole life story, they can't picture it from your shoes because they weren't there. So it's like, when you meet somebody, they're meeting you in snapshots. They might see you and think you're a quiet person when you're not. But it's like they met you in a setting where you were quiet. Or you might be usually like a rude ass person, but they might have met you in a place where you was chill that day. So they might think, oh, they nice as shit. But it's like, it's all based on where people meet you at.
And you're saying that people lean on that too much. And I think it's because people are too occupied with taking on these grand ideologies, like all these different religions and shit, as them, instead of, like, taking the time to really just sit in that nothingness, right? And really figure out who I am. Like, instead of just, like, listening to all these stories, the best sounding one is that's what I am, you know. And
that's why it's like,
people don't take the time to get to know themselves, or to even, like, build that self-awareness. Right. It's like this book, The Untethered Soul, it keeps coming to mind in the middle of this conversation, but one of the quotes from there is, awareness rested itself on the objects it was aware of and called them home. No bigger way to fuck yourself up than that. Like you said, you have your psyche, you have that inner voice. You have to be able to separate that from your surroundings and what's happening. Right.
It's the logic versus the ego. So it's like when you first, let's say you're having a conversation with somebody and they say something that you don't like, your first initial reaction is going to be your ego. So however you define yourself, however you box yourself, that's going to be your first, where you shoot your first reaction from. Then it goes to that place we call it conscious, psyche, whatever, where it's like, okay, is this like the proper reaction to this thing? But you're basing it off of a logic standpoint. So you're like, okay, this might happen, blah, 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 blah. Then the third part of it is putting those two voices together and then having that voice in the middle that's like, okay, yes, you have this ego that says, don't let nobody talk to you crazy. But the logic side of you says, if I punch this person in the face, I might go to jail. So it's like now you have to kind of conform between those two thoughts or those two ideas and say, okay, so what's the best plan of action in this situation? Right. And that can all happen within a split second. So it's like that's really how you define yourself is you allow yourself to make those decisions not based on like who you think you are
and
or
how people might perceive
how people might perceive you, but just saying what works for me best right now.
Right.
And that's really sometimes all you can do.
Come through with the lesson. Hello.
I'm trying to find this post that this lady Crystal posted on her story yesterday on Instagram, but I can't find it.
While you look for it, I'm gonna read this other quote from The Untethered Soul. It's, your life is not your own. It belongs to your inner roommate, the psyche. Stand firm in the seat of witness and release the hold that the habitual mind has on you.
Yeah.
Type shit. I recommend everybody read that book, bruh. It's literally like such a game changer. It's changed my life, and like I recommend it to so many people, and I've heard from other people that it had like the same effect on them. And it's really all about how to stop being like your biggest enemy type shit, like how to stop having that, or how to stop having a conflict with like those inner voices, you know, and the outer voice too. It's some good shit.
Yeah. I mean,
I can't find it.
It's okay.
The ultimate goal is the I guess the synchronization of your three selves. So it's how they say like Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit. It's the same thing. The Trinity is mind, body, and soul. So your ultimate goal is to align those three things so that when you make a decision, it aligns with your soul, it aligns with your body, and it aligns with your mind. So that you don't keep questioning, like, am I doing the right thing? Am I da-da-da? Like, you're just locked in with, okay, this is what I think I should do. I think it'll benefit me this way, but there's also the consequence of this. But I still think that this is the best option, and then being able to act on it. That's a 3-step process. Or
if it is in conflict, being able to separate yourself from that and not have that take over your being, right? Like it's being able to remind yourself that you are you're in the passenger seat,
that you exist regardless of
shit's happening,
the titles and things that you might lose across along the way. It's like if I make a lot of money and then I establish myself as somebody who makes a lot of money, and then all of a sudden I lose all my money, it's like now I've lost my identity. I've lost part of who I thought I was. But it's like that was never you. That was just a status where that you had at one point. But you can always lose a status because it's like,
and that's how you fuck yourself up.
That's
If you self-identify with something that isn't concrete, something that you're really like depending on other people to uphold along with you, like self-sabotage. Yeah,
because the bar is always going to be moving, and it's always, like I said, it's the perspective. Is you might think one thing about yourself, and everybody else could tell you something different. It's like, but what do you believe about yourself? Like what, and even what you believe about yourself, you have to be able to question, because it's like you might have one situation where you act a certain way, but then you get in another situation you act a different way, and it's like you have to ask yourself, like, what was the difference in these situations that would cause me to kind of go against who I thought I was, and do something different. And it's all just a matter of like questioning yourself. And I think the problem is a lot of people don't like to face ourselves.
No, they don't.
Because it's very dark. Like, it's a dark place to be, to really look at yourself from a place
of dark
duality. Yeah. And have to be able to look at not just the good parts of yourself, but be able to look at the sides of yourself that you don't care for, and be able to say, okay, is this me? and this just who I am, or is this something that I could work on? Is this something that I could develop better? Right. Or is this just who I am as a person, and do I have to figure out ways to kind of like live with that, you know?
Mm-hmm. And there's literally like people who won't be alone just because of that reason.
Ooh, child. Ooh, baby.
It's terrifying.
Baby. It's literally people that jump from relationship to relationship to relationship, or just end up having kids so that they don't have to be by themselves, honey. Don't even get me started.
Yes. And they end up suffering so bad.
Don't get me started, bruh. Don't get me started. It's going to be a whole episode on childhood trauma.
Poor kids.
I admit, poor us, because we were the kids, too.
We all were the kids.
Literally, everybody is walking around here traumatized and, like, just expected to go along with everyday life.
And that's part of the problem.
And just got to go along with everyday life. Like, my nigga. This shit's fucked up.
It's cool though.
It's cool though. We out here. Mm-hmm. We out here surviving, thriving sometimes. Anybody else have any other points they want to make? Questions?
I just say question your beliefs. No matter what you believe, just question that shit. Ask questions. And read a book.
Hello.
Nigga.
Read a book, man. Like, really read a book. Not the Bible. Read something else. Not the Bible. Read something else. Like, read another book.
You could read it as research.
Yeah. That's not research. That's a bunch of stories put together by a bunch of people you never met. Read some shit.
Listen, even if you are going to read the Bible, even if you are going to subscribe to a religion, don't be getting down on other niggas who don't want to.
Yeah.
Right.
Chill out.
That's it.
But question your religion.
Yeah. Also sit with yourself for
because I care about you.
1 minute a day, so you could build up your tolerance to sit with yourself.
Hello. That's a good practice.
Yeah.
1 minute is not that bad.
Meditation.
Just like meditating.
Yeah, meditate. That's all meditation is. It's just sitting with yourself and being able to go through your thoughts and say, okay, like, yes, these are my thoughts, but they're not me. I don't attach myself to these thoughts. It's just I'm having these thoughts, but I can still act like, how I want to. So just, find something better. Stop attaching to not even just religion. Don't attach to your politics. Don't attach to even your skin color. Like
your gender, your name, none of that shit, bro.
All that shit can change. All that shit is up for like whatever. Like just live your life. Just be whoever you need to be in whatever moment you in, and you'll be alright. I guess, or maybe not. I don't know. I ain't shit, but
none of us are, homie. None of us are. Well, on that note, join the Facebook group so we can like actually talk to y'all and shit. Probably find some new special guests too. Otherwise, thank y'all.
Yeah.
Thank y'all for talking. I think this was a good one. This is a good return episode.
It was fun.
It was, definitely.
All right, homies. Signing over and out.
Gotta go pray.